Hey everyone, welcome to Sidetrack Adventures. This is Steve. Right now we're in California near the Mexican border, and Hakumba Hot Springs may look like any other quiet desert town, but 100 years ago, this was one of the most talked about destinations in Southern California. With natural springs bubbling up from the earth, and a resort that once hosted Hollywood stars, Hakumba was a hotspot, literally and figuratively, during the golden age of American road trips. Today, we're going to explore what's left of that past. We are currently about 70 miles east of the city of San Diego, in the southeastern corner of San Diego County. And when I said we're close to the Mexican border, there is Mexico right there. In simpler times, there was an unmanned border crossing station in town, but that closed in 1995, and since 2006, this large border fence, or as some call it a wall, runs through the area. Old Highway 80 runs right through the center of town as well. The railroad is what first put Hakumba on the map, but Highway 80 made it a destination. On the flip side, though, when Highway 80 was bypassed by Interstate 8 in the 1960s, like a lot of other small towns, the businesses here died almost overnight. So let's head down historic Highway 80 and start exploring Hakumba Hot Springs. Oh, and just as a note, the town was originally called Hakumba, but it was renamed a few years ago to Hakumba Hot Springs. Most people still just call it Hakumba though, and I'll probably be switching between the two names, not even thinking about it. Our first stop is the Hakumba Community Park, and the park entrance also has this warning that there may be rattlesnakes in the area. Well, it's a good thing that warning is there. This snake was created by Ricardo Braceta, who's famous for large metal sculptures like this all throughout the deserts of the Southwest. Over 100 of his statues can be found in the Borrego Springs area alone. There are supposed to be a few more Ricardo Braceta statues around Hakumba, so we'll have to see if we could find them. This sign here is pretty interesting. At first I thought it was just a sign showing what other things there are to see in the area, but it also talks about vortexes or vortices, whatever the proper way of saying it, and shows how they work in this area or something. Every time we come across some vortex thing or don't feel anything at a vortex, someone always mentions that we did something wrong at the vortex. What good is a vortex if it needs an instruction manual? Apparently there is a ley line from England. I don't know what a ley line is, but I'm pretty sure you could just draw a line from England to any place on Earth. Maybe in the future we'll have to see if the vortex gets more powerful the closer you get to England. Here's a map of some of the stuff there is to see in Hakumba though, including some more vortexes. This park is also where the Hakumba Library is at. This flagpole at the park has a monument on it for John Finn, who was awarded the Medal of Honor for his actions during the attack on Pearl Harbor on December 7th, 1941. He lived in the area, and when he died at age 100 in 2010, he was the last Medal of Honor recipient from Pearl Harbor. Across the street from the park is this art gallery with paintings by Linda Churchill, who is known for her murals throughout California. I imagine traveling on Highway 80 in the 1920s or 1930s, after crossing the desert east of here. Getting to Hakumba was like reaching an oasis. Hakumba became famous as a resort town, and there is once again an active resort here. We are at the Hakumba Hot Springs Hotel, complete with its own energy vortex. When the railroad arrived to town in 1919, and then the highway was paved through here, because of the area's natural hot springs, the town became a very popular resort destination. From the 1920s until the 1940s, top movie stars like Clark Gable, Clara Bow, and Marlene Dietrich would even vacation here. Starting in 1928 with the film Beggars of Life, movies would occasionally be filmed in Hakumba too. But eventually competition from other resort towns, such as Palm Springs, took business away, and then finally the town was bypassed, and the resorts had a hard time staying in business. We'll see what's left of what was the town's biggest resort, the one movie stars such as Clark Gable would have stayed at, a little bit later. A few years ago, new owners bought this place and have really revitalized it. Along with the resort, they bought most of the town as well. I've never seen this many people in Hakumba in all the times I've come through here. The new owners even moved into town, so it looks like they're really invested in bringing this place back to life. I really get like a Morocco feel here, but then again, I've never been to Morocco, so what do I know? I'm trying to avoid filming resort guests. There are a lot of people in bathing suits and stuff, but the pools are active again, and the restaurant here is pretty good. There was also a band playing when we first got here. The place appears to be packed. Now let's go take a look at the town's past. The old gas station looks like it's had some restoration done. There are no currently open gas stations in town. Here's the Hakumba post office. It looks like the sun has really faded the sign. There are old buildings dating back to the 1920s all throughout the town. And down this way, we should see what's left of the town's railroad history. That mountain in the background is Hakumba Peak. It's a volcanic cone, and the elevation of its peak is 3,363 feet. We're going to use this footbridge to cross this wash. This probably comes in handy in the rare times when there is flooding. The name Hakumba comes from the Native American name of this valley, Hakum. The area was long home to the Kumeyaay people, and archaeologists have found several major village sites in the area. In 1850, a mail station was established here as part of the early trail between San Diego and Fort Yuma. And here's a look at the wash we're crossing. Eventually, settlers began using this valley to graze livestock, which led to probably the darkest event in the area's history, the Hakumba Massacre. On February 27, 1880, a band of ranchers confronted a group of starving Kumeyaay for slaughtering some of their cattle and stealing horses. The confrontation turned to violence at Table Mountain, which is a few miles northeast of here, and an estimated 15 Kumeyaay men, women, and children were killed, along with the son of one of the ranchers, a 17-year-old William McCain. We have a railroad crossing sign here. No railroad has come by here in quite some time. But we can see some old train cars here. This is all private property, so unfortunately we have to look through the fence. And here is the Hakumba train station, built in 1919 and now a private residence. When the San Diego and Arizona Railroad was completed through here, it was nicknamed the Impossible Railroad because of the engineering challenges in building it, including the nearby Carrizo Gorge, which is famous for having the largest wooden trestle in the world. It was actually not too far from here where the Golden Spike was placed when the railroad was completed in November 1919. Passenger service to Hakumba began in late 1919 and ended in 1951. Freight service continued through here until 1976. The railroad coming through here is really what made this town and brought people to what at the time was a brand new resort. If you look to the base of the hill in the distance, you'll see a white pyramid. That is part of the Institute of Perception. What is the Institute of Perception, you might ask? Well, I asked a local and they kind of just shrugged their shoulders and said, "Your guess is as good as mine." When I Googled it, the top result said that it is a sacred space for artists and seekers to ply their craft and commune with the ancient gods and goddesses whose spirits are said to live in the soil. There are quite a few old train cars down here. It's too bad somebody can't take these and restore them. We've arrived in, I guess, what you would consider downtown Hakumba, which consists of about a block. In the 1930s, the population of Hakumba peaked at a little bit over 1,100. Nowadays, there's less than half that here. I believe all of the buildings, at least on this side of the street, date back to the 1920s, but they've been changed over the years, so it's kind of hard to make them out in old photographs. But if you look at this building right here, and you look at the roof, you could definitely make out its distinctive features in old photos. And here's a look across the street. The market on the corner was once the Barbara Worth Cafe. When you look at old photos of the town, though, there's one building that shows up in most of them that is no longer here. The Hotel Vaughn was a large four-story hotel that was built in 1925 and had 65 rooms, and this is what's left of it. We'll take the stairs up into the hotel, just like we would have had we come here 100 years ago. The hotel burned down in 1983. Someone left a lit candle in their room. The fireplace was famous for having a jade Buddha embedded into it, and surprisingly enough, it's still there. Over here, we can still see the tiles on the floor. This is the hotel that movie stars such as Clara Bow and Clark Gable would have stayed at. And here's one of the hotel's hot tubs. It's been filled in. The natural hot springs in Hakumba are 104 degrees. But it's been a long time since anyone's taken a dip in this hot tub. And here's a swimming pool. There were much larger spring-fed pools across the street, and we'll see those in just a few minutes. We can still see some of the colored tiles. It looks like it was 3 feet deep over on this side. We're about 70 miles from San Diego, and back in the 1920s by car, it would take about 3 hours to get out here. So this place was pretty remote for the time, but to have a hotel of this size just shows how popular it was. But unfortunately, after the fire in 1983, everything else was torn down by 1991, and this is all that's left. Right across the street is the bathhouse. This was also part of the resort, and this was also destroyed by a fire in 1980. We'll take a closer look. This is also owned by the Hakumba Hotel and Spa, and they use it as a music venue now. Both the hotel and the bathhouse were originally built by a guy named Vaughn, and that's also why the hotel's original name was the Hotel Vaughn. One thing Bert Vaughn knew how to do was advertise. He had the Desert View Tower built east of here, which is still standing, simply to promote his restaurant. And he heavily promoted Hakumba as well. Some articles about Mr. Vaughn online claim that he was the former mayor of San Diego, but that doesn't seem to be the case. He's not on any official list of San Diego mayors anyway. He did own most of this town, though. Bert Vaughn sold Hakumba in 1944 and passed away at the age of 97 in 1976. The same year the last freight train came through town. Over here you can make out the outline of what was the wading pool at the bathhouse. And this is pretty funny. They even left the railing for the steps going into the pool. At first I thought this was just a barricade, but then I realized this was part of the pool itself. You can see the pipes coming out of it. This would have been right in the center of the pool. And here's what's left of the big, spring-fed pools that were called the plunge. This would have been the place to be in Hakumba had we come here in the 1930s. Also, surprisingly enough, by the bathhouse, there is a lake. Now, this wouldn't have been here in the 1920s. This was man-made in the 1950s. In 1954, a man named Henry Lazar, who was a developer from Los Angeles, bought the resort. He drilled new wells in the area, and one of them tapped a heavy flow of sulfur spring water. So with the sulfur spring water flowing, he had this area scooped out with heavy equipment, lined the ground with clay, and built a spillway to control the water level, and Lake Lazar was born. He even stocked the lake with fish such as bass, catfish, and bluegill. I guess they don't mind the sulfur water. Now we just have to find the actual lake. It looks like there's some tile in the pathway here in the stream. This may have come from the bathhouse or one of the pools. Of all the times I've been through this area, I've never actually seen the lake. Eventually the lake fell into disrepair and was even drained at one point and used as a trash dump. There had been no lake here for years. In the last few years, the new owners of the Hakumba Hotel have restored the lake to its previous state. And here is Lake Lazar. It's pretty amazing to see what was essentially a trash dump for years turned back into this. And I guess fish don't mind the water too much. It's pretty neat to see so many people enjoying the lake, but I just realized it probably would have been easier just to walk around the other side of it. There are some more Ricardo Bracetta statues on the hill above us. I usually try to avoid filming homes as much as possible, but this one was on the town map. This house is known as the Chinese Castle. The story goes that it was built in 1926 by a man named Frank Battles, who supposedly had either spent time in China or had a Chinese wife, or both. But no one really knows for sure. It's just one of the mysteries. There are a number of legends about the place. Some say that it was a former gambling establishment, or that a smuggler's tunnel ran to the house to bring alcohol from Mexico during Prohibition, though I'm pretty sure digging through the boulders it's built on would have made a tunnel unlikely. There's also a story that some unnamed Hollywood director killed his mistress here, but there's no evidence for any of the stories. The Chinese castle does have another Ricardo Bracetta statue, though. This one is a dragon. We're almost out of town and we came across some more ruins. I haven't found any information on what this place was, though it looks like it was probably a house. Based on the construction, it probably dates back to at least the 1920s, if not before. If it was a house, it wasn't a very big house. Let's see what kind of view they had out their window. Well, it looks like they had a view of a boulder. Here's what's left of another old gas station. We are just outside of town now, but I wanted to check out this old bridge on Highway 80. It was built in 1931. The road through Hakumba was paved pretty early on, but some sections of Highway 80 east of here weren't paved until the late 1920s. And you can see the railroad tracks from the Impossible Railroad on this side of the bridge. And if we walk over to this side of the bridge, you can see we are right on the border with Mexico. And here's a look down Highway 80, back towards Hakumba. So that's our look at the not quite ghost town of Hakumba Hot Springs. In fact, it looks like it's even starting to get some new life. But thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing, and we'll see you next week.